guys, my name is Neel and welcome to Neel Workshop Zone. So in this episode, we're going to be learning about relational database. So in my previous episode, which if you haven't checked it out, link is in the description, I have talked about the different types of databases. And in that I explained about 5 types of different databases. And I said that there were nearly 12 to 14. So this episode is entirely dedicated to one type of database, which is relational database. Now, relational database isn't a special database and it's not different than the others. It's kind of similar, but it is one of the most popularly used databases. And I thought why not, make an episode on it, even though it's a little short, because this is a really important type of database. So yeah, let's talk about relational database. So relational database is a set of tables that are linked through, the common fields. For example, let's write snow number, a name, and let's write grade. Sorry for my handwriting. So let's write 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's write random names. So now I just made a table, right? So here we have, the number, the name, and the grade. So now let's take another, database. So this is another database, right? So did you notice something similar? You can see that, they not both of these databases are the same databases, but they are, just a little bit different data. For example, in this you have the names, but in this you have the marks, and the rest of all are the same. Now, if you see these two databases, the way to find out that they both are in common is by telling that both of these are similar. So these help us identify, the relation between all of these two databases. That this is the reason why we found out that these two are related. So that is basically keys, which I thought to say afterwards, but let's just talk about it. Keys are basically used to help find, something in a database, in both of the databases. So this is basically an example of a key. So before we go a little deep, or more likely let's talk about other things which you need to know before you learn about relational database, because they are very helpful while learning relational database. And then we'll come back to the keys. So first let's learn about data. I talked about about data in my first database management system episode. So in that I talked a little bit more about data, but here I'm just going to talk a point. Data is basically a true or specific information or personal facts regarding you. For example, your name, your age, those are all data regarding to you. Next, you have tables. Tables are basically stored data in the form of rows and columns. For example, this is a table. This is a table. Now next we have rows and columns. You might have heard of it if you know about tables. Now in database, a row is called either, this is a row, this is called a record or tuple or tuple. I guess you can also call it a row, but these are the other words that are used. Next you have columns, which is, the things which is horizontal. These are called attributes or fields. Now if you notice something, attributes or fields are really important because, as I said, these are the things that help you determine the relation between two databases. So, let's talk about variables. So, I talked about Java variables in my Java video, but in database form, variables are mostly the same. There is just code of data that are inside the database that help us represent what the database is about. For example, you can take this as a variable, which is the integer variables. These are all integer variables. This is a string variables, which if you don't know about Java, integer is basically number variables and string is word. And if you want to know about Java, maybe link is in the description. So that is variables. It's basically a code of data, that contains numbers and letters in the form of strings and integers. So yeah. Okay, you know what? Let's not rub the fool, but yeah. So now let's talk about fields. I think we talked about fields. Let's talk about files. So files actually have two different meanings in database. One of them is an alternative for a database. So instead of storing it in a tabular, like a database should, it stores in a form of like files and folders. We'll maybe talk about it in a future episode, but I'll say up till then. And the second meaning, which we're going to use now, is, storing data just like a database. But, like for example, imagine you have a couple of papers which is related to a single subject. And you want to take it to somewhere. So what do? You take a file and put it in it and take it with you. So a file is basically contains all a set of things which is related to a singular subject. For example, imagine both of these databases are stored in a folder. That's a very bad representation of folder, but in a folder called marks, school marks. So in this, both of these databases are there because this is a file. Even though it's folder, it's basically an example. This is a file in this case because it holds the information about a certain type of subject or, the type of information or data that is inside a folder or a file. So, I think we talked about all the things which are related to database. Which you need to learn before you learn about relational database. Let's talk about one or two things and that's it for today. So, as I was talking about keys are mostly regarded like, there's much a small subject, but these are really important for a database. Mostly people think that there are only 4 types of keys, but in reality, there are 8 types of keys. I'll do an episode on it, but for now, let me give you a small example on what it is. So, as I said, keys are basically the things which helps you identify the relation between two databases. So, there are different types of keys, like for example, candidate key and primary key. And in one of those keys, it's going to be like, for example, if you have two fields, which helps you locate, another database, that is called one type of, key. I won't tell you that because I will go into deep in the next episode. But if you have only one type of field which helps you determine the relation, then it's called, a candidate key or so. And on the other hand, if you have two or more columns, it's called something else. So we're gonna explore that in the next episode. Probably not, but we'll talk about that later. So hope you enjoyed this video on relational database. I don't know if this is a long video, but still, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so don't miss out any new videos. And that's all folks, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.